The World Championships in Tokyo are officially over, and the men's 100-meter dash did live up to the hype, or at least that's what I think it did, because we have a brand new world fastest man, depending on how you feel about that title, and Oblique Seville is that guy. So before I even go any further, how do we feel about this race? Because depending on who you ask, it went exactly the way they thought it would. But I mean, we ain't never see Oblique do this. When I say never, I mean never. So, talk to me because you were there live.
Yeah, yeah. I think this race definitely lived up to expectations. Many people did predict this. Many people didn't. I definitely didn't, pick Oblique to win gold, but I think most people kind of had this top three in some order. But it's true. We had Noah Lyles as the defending champion coming in from the World Championships 2023 and from the Olympics last year in Paris. So he was on paper one of the favorites. You had Kishane Thompson, who was the fastest man on the clock in 2025 and in 2024, right? He's run the fastest times both years. And then you had Oblique Seville, who was the guy that, hadn't gotten it done in however many championships since 2022. He's always been off the podium and he managed to finally deliver. And I think like you said, I was there. So seeing the progression through the rounds, we saw a lot of, interesting things kind of unfold from the heats to the semis. And then when we got to the final, we saw all the main players lined up right there in the center. You add in, Kenny B as well. But it turned out to be Oblique Seville finally getting that gold medal. And saying finally because, as I said, he had unfortunately not gotten onto the podium at all in any championships since 2022. You can even go back to 2021 when he was at the Olympics, only made the semifinals. He was still very, very young, but I think he did exceed expectations or meet certain people's expectations. And I think he did it in very like emphatic fashion. He was the only one to go under, he was the only one to run 9.7, right? That to me showed that, all right, Oblique met the moment, and to a degree, the other people behind him didn't perform up to expectations. Because, like I said, Kishane Thompson was and still is like he's ending the year as the world leader, running 9.75. Noah Lyles obviously won gold last year at the Olympics, running 9.7, and he was kind of trending in that direction. But so, you can kind of parse things out depending on how things look. Even Kenny B, he's run 9.7 this year. So Oblique kind of stepped up to the plate while others didn't perform up to their full capabilities. Though it's not to say that anyone, Noah Lyles, he got a season's best, right? It's not like he completely underperformed or anything, but I think that Oblique really just like took control of this entire race as a whole.
Yeah, I think the clock can sometimes get us in trouble because when you account for all the different factors,
Yeah.
like this race, okay, let's take Oblique's Lausanne race, the one that was the moment for some people. This was some version of that race. And what he proved, though, was that the gaps he was putting on the field were actually legit gaps. That's what I would
Mm-hmm.
say. And because remember, Noah was ahead of everybody else. Like that's what it was. It was, like, and again, going back to those races, it was like he was second, people were behind him, but Oblique had a pretty sizable gap. And the only thing
Mm-hmm.
Noah did is like chip away at that gap a little bit. But other than that, like, Kishane, I think he's probably again, another silver medal, but like that wasn't the goal. Like on a personal level, that just wasn't the goal.
Yeah,
So
of
he's
course.
probably the one who probably was the most like, you know, it's hard to say a silver medal is underwhelming, but like it was not the direction we expected him to step. But this is now 2 years in a row we got that same narrative of he can go so much faster. And I was like, well, last year he didn't go so much faster. And then this year he didn't go so much faster again, which is starting to make me continue to believe. I wouldn't say making me believe. I'll say I continue to believe that maybe that's just how his seasons are going to go. There'll be a flash time, and then the rest of the season will be trying to hold on to that form. So, I mean, just to go back to Oblique though, I mean, it's interesting because like him winning the championship makes sense. Like again, hindsight is 2020. But at the same time, I don't feel like it was as de like it was a decisive victory, but it doesn't make me necessarily feel like this is his time now, like going forward. It's sort of like,
Hmm.
okay, you got this one. And if he doesn't take a step forward, like a true step forward, then like from this form to the next, like I can still see, somebody coming and getting you in the future. I think that's kind of like the general feeling. Again, maybe the clock is part of that narrative, so maybe I'm somewhat contradicting, but I'm contradicting myself. But
Nah, I agree. I think even though Oblique won, I think there's two parts where this was a long time coming for Oblique, where all right, he got the win. It was very decisive. He it wasn't a massive, massive gap, but like he ran 9-7, the other guys ran 9-8. So it was a sizable enough win where it's like, all right, he convincingly won. But the other guys are still close enough and are it's still kind of like up in the air of like, okay, Kishane could come back and win, a gold medal at some point. Because let's not forget, Oblique, this is what the fourth time that Oblique has been in the final. And there was a point where if Oblique didn't get a medal here, people would have said, all right, you're the next Asafa Pal or whatever, right? You just can't do it. Kishane, he has gotten two silver medals, but that's not even as many times as Oblique has been in finals. So he can come back in 2027, 2028 and win a gold medal, and it wouldn't be a surprise. Noah Lyles, he's still in the conversation as someone like I don't know. He was injured this for the better part of
yeah,
this entire year and was playing catch up for the most part. This of course happened to be the best race of his year, so I don't see a reason to say that he's slowing down. Kenny B, similar situation where not he wasn't injured, but he's still in the conversation. So I think this was a moment for Oblique to assert himself as like, okay, I deserve to remain in the conversation as one of the great 100-meter sprinters of this generation, but I still need to make sure I'm pushing myself to be better because all these guys can show up and can step up, right? That's what I think he needs to make sure he's maintaining.
so
Because yeah,
I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off.
no,
I'm
go ahead.
thinking right off of that, where okay, this is how I see the final. This is how I see the season, based on what the final told us. So I'm gonna put everybody in categories. We had I think we had legit contenders. We had three legit contenders, but there was a contender and a half, or like a half contender, and I think that was Kenny B because he finished in fourth. And no
Mm,
disrespect, I always saw him as I don't see you with the other three. But that's because I watched again. If you go back over the facts were he was beating Oblique when Oblique wasn't looking like this yet. He was. So that's what got him in the contender pile. And then, you know, again, if we move because Akani was in the final, he was there.
he was there,
He was
and he
supposed to
was
be
yeah,
there. He was
yeah,
supposed to be there because he beat Kishane when Kishane wasn't Kishane yet. Like,
yep.
but this is
The-
what made him, again, if you're not a contender, you're a challenger. Like that's what he was. Like he was a challenger. So Kenny's in between the two, and he's in between because what ended up happening was when Oblique turned it on, he blasted past everybody, including maybe not Kishane because he like, wasn't in a race with him, but he blasted past Noah, and everybody else is behind him distantly. But Noah's not getting beat by anybody else who's not you. And then he doesn't get
mm,
beat by anybody who's not Kishane. So it's like, well, they're the only two guys who realistically could do it because we saw Kenny behind you. Like that's what, so everything actually stayed on path. I mean, now I think those three, like Oblique got it, but I think under varying degrees of circumstance, it could have been one of the other two guys. I just don't ever believe it was going to be Kenny.
mm,
And then that's not being disrespectful. I'm saying I just don't see it all adding up in that direction. So that's what I'm thinking.
mm,
Like next another season, it's going to be because what has to happen is somebody has to join that group. Like you got to show us you got the form to run with them because Noah found his way to a bronze medal just by being better than y'all. That's kind of what he didn't run like yes, it's a season best, but like it wasn't a great race. Like I remember watching 30 to 50 and I was like, oh, this is over. Because
mm.
the first 20, I was like, okay, Noah. And then when I saw 30 to 50, I was like, it's over. Like
Yeah, he
I was
didn't
like, this is not what you did at World Indoor to get a medal in the 60s.
to
This
get
is
his
not that.
yeah. No, very very much so. There was some differences there, and like yeah, for Noah, it's like it probably does speak to the well. I mean, he did. I think he did very well in it too, but it just speaks to maybe just the time of the year that he missed due to injury. Where sure you have more room for error in the 200, but in the 100, when you're going up against Kishane and Oblique, who are explosive from the start, and then Oblique who found a way to really execute his entire race, then you're not going to be able to match that. And like you said, we saw that throughout the year. Now, I do think I wouldn't count someone like Kenny. Well, even before Kenny, just my last note on Oblique, I can imagine a world, even though I still do see things very close, I can imagine a world where he goes on to continue to win gold medals. Now, again, it's very close. I'm not saying 100% he's going to be, defending his title or anything like that. But this may be have been the thing for Oblique to break that barrier and say, okay, I now have the confidence to be the top guy. I now see what it's like or what it takes to be on top of the podium. This may have been that moment for him to now continue to win gold or just remain on the podium, whatever it may be. This may have been it. But I can see a world, like I said, with Kishane Thompson. He can step things back up. He can figure out because, unfortunately, of course, I picked Kishane for gold, but the same thing that unfortunately happened throughout the year in certain races, it unfolded in the final. His second half of the race, he was tying up, he folded, and like he just wasn't able to execute. He felt that pressure, and he wasn't able to execute. Kenny B, I could also imagine him stepping things up in the next couple years because actually with I think it was Kishane and Kenny in the semifinals, they both ran like 9-8 something. I think Kenny ran faster in the semis than his final. So I don't know if I'm not sure I
Well,
believe that Kenny is like a 9.75 or 9.76 guy, but it wouldn't surprise me if he gets to a point where it's like, all right, I made two consecutive finals at the Olympics and now the world champs. Maybe now I can step things up and get onto the podium, maybe challenge these guys.
I hear you, but when I go back to the stat where, remember, when Bolt leaves the game,
Hmm.
nobody, not one person who's not named Noah Lyles has won multiple gold medals. Now, notice what I said. I didn't say multiple gold in the 100. I said multiple gold medals, period.
Yeah.
No one has done it. So if Oblique were to go win another one, he'd be the first. So now you have to start asking, what does it take to win multiple golds? Oblique has the talent. We know this. But when we talk about multiple golds, because now we're leaving Noah in them, like we're now thinking like historic history of the last 20 to 30 years.
Hmm.
You have to have a different level of talent. When I say different, you have to have what I call a skill gap. Now in basketball, it means something different. But for my purposes, the skill gap is the thing that allowed Noah to get bronze while doing it wrong, if that makes sense. He didn't run a good race in that middle portion. He just didn't. Still gets bronze because his skill gap allows him that space. Everybody else had to perform. They had to perform. He didn't have to perform to still end up there, if that makes sense. So
Mm.
the skill gap athletes are the ones who win multiple. Carl Lewis, skill gap. You see what I'm saying? Like Maurice Green, skill gap. Noah Lyles, skill gap. And even Justin Gatlin, still, there was a skill gap. Usain Bolt goes without saying. So as a result, does Oblique have a skill gap? If that skill gap just showed up, if Lazon was the beginning of it, if that was supposed to be showing us where it is, then maybe he's going to win another one. But that's what it would take. Otherwise, you're just a guy who won a gold, which you're in history, like you're there. But there's a lot of guys who won golds. And we're going to talk about the 200 in a moment. Remember, Ramil Gulyev had the 200-meter gold medal. He is the litmus test for like, it's proof that you could get one. And Ramil Gulyev does not have a skill gap at all.
No, I think Oblique has that skill gap. I think it's just the past couple years.
Compared to
He
Kishane, he might. And compared to Kishane, remember, he's in the game with these guys. The skill cap would have
yeah,
to put you, for the whole thought to match, you have to be elevated above your field. So
yeah.
it's not like if Noah got one and you got one, that cancels out. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah,
Maurice
yeah,
Green
yeah, yeah.
had something nobody for a period of years had but him.
Yeah, I guess I think because I guess there's multiple skill gaps where it's like, based on the thought. Like Noah has, I don't know, like the skill of performing when it counts. Because he's obviously not faster than Oblique or Kashane. Like just It just times like all that. He's just not faster, but he has a skill of showing up when it counts the most, of performing when it counts. That is a massive skill, and it's proven throughout the years at the championships with multiple golds. I think Oblique and Kishane have the talent skill gap that can actually translate to, well, Oblique for now because he has the gold medal, that can translate into multiple gold medals. That's why I think that this gold in the 100 might have been that breakthrough for him because he's dealt with injuries the past couple of years. I know people say, and even his coach Glenn Mills said that it's not like a mental thing, but there may have been that aspect. Like it or not, like you don't go through whatever it is, 4 championships of not winning a medal, and you're not affected by that mentally. So I think there is some aspect there. But now I think he has the talent. And once he's healthy, we see what he's able to do. I think that can carry him through to another gold medal. So, in my opinion, I feel like he has like this kind of skill gap that can bring him to another gold medal. Now, whether or not he does it, that's another question because it's still very, very close. But I think Oblique Seville is just as talented. And I mean, you can argue more talented, obviously on paper, yeah, on paper and in speed and all those aspects than someone like Noah, who has a skill of showing up when it counts the most, regardless of whatever he's done through the year.
But
So
that's
I
not.
yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, well, I have a question for you, but the question before I get there, because it's about oblique performance compared to another race. What I would say
Hmm.
is, I would argue that Noah's skill gap is not just clutch performing. The skill gap is he's the strongest runner in the field, which is why the 200 is not a race. It's the Noah Lyles show because he's the strongest sprinter in the field. Like from 50 to 100, who are you
Hmm.
trusting more than him? The problem is he butchered it in the first half, which is why that like he has to count on that part. But the key is, I mean, even right now, if you had a race, then your life depended on it. You had to pick a guy, and you knew that you could only that what matters was that they do from 50 to 100. Who you got? Like
Well,
so, like that's where, like again, I remember watching and I saw 30 to 50, and I'm talking about like, watching it live. And I visually saw what was happening between him and the field in that specific window. And then I called it verbally, like, okay, this is now over. I knew he was going to come and knock some people out, but he went from in the mix to out of it to then I'm going to get myself back in it.
hmm.
If he had just stayed in the mix, he would have been at least right up there with Kishane, at the very least. The problem was he went out of it and then he had to get back in. But the question would be which race is more impressive to you? Christian Coleman's 2019 100 win or what Oblique just did in this one?
Well, I mean, Christian Coleman's 2019. I think that's more impressive. It's
Just
pretty
100.
close. Yeah, it's actually pretty close, but I guess I don't know. It's pretty close. I guess I'm looking at Christian Coleman's because Christian Coleman is you can argue, whatever the data says or whatever, but you can argue he's the best starter in the 100 meters maybe in history, right? Like we know he's extremely explosive, but he struggles in the second half of the race. Now, in that 2019 race, he put together literally at least for him the perfect race where he executed the start, he was able to maintain through that middle half and at least like decelerate the least going to the finish line, and that led him to a 9.76. So that was like for Christian Coleman literally, and still to this day, his best race that won him the gold medal. Now, so I feel like that's maybe slightly better because what we've seen in the years afterwards, where he's been still had that great start, outside of like 2025, for the most part, he's had an explosive start, but he hasn't been as strong in the second half. But with Oblique, what I think is special about this race is that it's all the history of what has occurred at the previous championships, where coming into these championships, it was hard to say that all right he was going to win the gold medal because we've seen evidence where he's been on the line and he not forget a gold medal he hasn't been able to win any medal. He hasn't been able to get on the podium at all. So for him to not only he didn't just get on the podium here, he got the gold medal and he ran a personal best. He essentially ran the best race of his life, obviously. even, him saying, again, while I was there, I spoke to him. He's like, nah, I didn't even get a perfect race. Like there's still a trillion things I needed to fix up.
Yeah, but
So
I mean, but that part right there, that's just how athletes think. I mean,
that's true. Of course. Of
like that,
course.
like those statements don't mean as much to me because you know what it takes to run a personal best is you have to do like this is the logic. You actually have to run in a way where you do everything you've ever done right again and then make a correction. That's what a PR is.
Hmm.
So do you see why, oh, I didn't run a perfect race? Speaking from experience is not a very valuable assessment of where you're headed because you still have to get it right again. But I brought up the Christian Coleman thing and I appreciate the breakdown because now the second half was like, okay, when you see Christian Coleman today, and I'm thinking 2022 to
Hmm.
2024, let's just use that window. Did you feel like he was a world beater in that window?
Well, not no. I mean, he hasn't gotten on the podium, so he
Yeah,
couldn't have
but I
been.
mean, no, I'm feel like, did you really think he was going to win gold in 2022?
Not 2022. Maybe not gold, but I in 2023 had a feeling I thought he might be able to get on the podium.
Yeah, but that's not what I said. Win gold. I didn't say you say. I thought he might be
well,
able to get on the podium. That's not the
well,
same thing as win gold.
well, 20. I mean, we gotta look. 2022 is different because that was like Fred Curley was running 9.7 like multiple
Yeah,
times that year.
but he hadn't gone faster than Christian. They were in that final together in 2023. I'm using that. My point being that, like, do you see what I mean by the gap in talent between like I can win one and then winning another? It's the
Yeah.
reason why I go in any sport, winning multiple championships, especially in a row, is super hard to do. Because no, you don't catch anybody flipping the second time. See,
Hmm.
people underestimated Oblique before. Nobody's underestimating again. Like that's not going to happen. He will not be
Yeah.
underestimated from this point on. Every race that Oblique Seville runs from this point on, especially let's just say next season, 2027, because next year there's technically no worlds. It's a little
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a world ultimate, whatever that means. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like ultimately, no pun intended, next time he runs for the next 2 years, it's really going to linger for 2 years. He's getting everybody's best shot.
Yeah.
Before it was Oblique's here, and now it's if I beat him, then I just took out the reigning champ. So I'm not saying he's not up for the challenge. What I'm saying is it's going to be different because that's where Noah was living. Every time you ran against him this year, that was how he was being treated, right? If I beat him, I take out the guy. And I think that
Yeah.
also played into Kishane and Oblique's races against him because they did not come with any level of underestimation. See, now that you've beaten him, here's the irony. I think Noah's going to be underestimated again in the 100. Like, that's what I think is
Mm.
going to happen. Where do you really think that 989 was the best race he can give you? It might have been the best race he can give you in the 100, given the lack of training required for him to get through the first 50 and then maintain in a 100 in a championship, maybe this year, when he hasn't run hundreds hardly at all. But do you think that's the best it's ever going to get? If we can get him back healthy and running, I don't. I think this thing can improve. Like realistically, not just from what we've seen, but I'm like, I see where it went off the track this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
The question
I
is
mean,
not whether he would have won gold this year, though. The question is, I think he would have been right in that 982, 981, 980, 979, 983. I think he would have been in that gap at the bare minimum. I think the 989 is literally him just running on talent, saying, I'm better than y'all. That's how I felt. It didn't feel like he executed well at all in the grander scheme. It was just every single race he ran in the 100 this year, he proved I'm better than the rest of y'all. Sorry.
yeah. Better. Yeah. Better than that's better than
But
the
he
rest of the
wasn't
field.
better
That's
than
true.
them running like that.
That's
And
fair.
like, no one
Yeah.
else won. No one else beat him. This whole
I
time.
I guess I look at Oblique moving forward, not in the same realm, but like I can't. Obviously, this 100-meter field is going to be competitive moving forward, no matter what. But it's a similar conversation. It's like Noah wasn't Noah until he became Noah, right? 2019, he won his first gold medal in the 200, but he didn't win anything else until 2022. He lost in the next championships at the Olympics, right? So even though he was seen as the most dominant 200-meter sprinter because, he had come out during a time coming out of high school, he didn't have a championships like 20 when he was injured in
2018, yeah.
2017, but 2018 he didn't have a championships and he was, dominating through the year, but he didn't win his next gold medal after 2019.
Yeah. He
So
won the USA 100 in 2018.
he won the USA 100, yeah, in
Yeah.
2018, and he won
For,
the
for
he
as
won
a non-100 runner.
as a non-100 runner. But just thinking about the gold medals, right? Like Oblique now going into the next championships, sure, it's possible. Like I can see it both ways, where we look at Noah now as the guy who has multiple medals, but before 2022, or at least gold medals, before 2022, he didn't have that. So now we
Yeah.
can speak about him in hindsight.
Yeah. But
So
he also
yeah,
was the thing is like his skill gap is proven by his 200s, which is, the other conversation. That goes back to in 2019, you knew this man was going to win another 200 eventually.
well,
You see what I'm saying?
true,
Like there was
but
nobody really thought that he was done when he
of
won
course not.
that
Of
one.
course,
You see
of
what I'm saying? So
course.
that's why, but hey, it's Oblique's time now, and that's what matters most. And anytime he goes into a race, he's going to get everybody else's best shot. So it at the top half, it lived up to the hype. The back half
Yeah,
of the race, because I know we're gonna have to close. I know I was going through the different groups. Yeah, everybody else in that race who wasn't the four guys that we talked about, Kenny B with like a contender and a half, like a half contender. Like everybody else, they were contestants.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I
and
mean,
I know that sounds
yeah.
rude. I said what I said. They were contestants. There was never a world in which I expected them to be on the podium.
No, I think that I on pure just like in the field, like let's see, like he false started, so that was out. Akani, obviously he finished last, at least after the false start, but like last place, so he drastically underperformed. But then you did have Gift from South Africa and Ajayi from Nigeria. It's like they were guys who
They
were
ran well.
truly. I'm happy to be here. Like they ran fast in the rounds, but I don't think anyone was like, oh, they're gonna get on the podium. I think they're like, okay, now my career starts. Where now, okay, I can potentially have spots in the future. Like just being honest, like they upset some guys to make it into the final, and hey, they're happy. They were satisfied with being in that final. Obviously, they want medals, but not to diminish them. But yeah, like I think things played out for the most part in terms of the medals in whatever combination people predicted. How we expected with the big three there.
Yeah. So well, hey, that's we will find out what the future of the
Yeah.
100 holds, but we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer than anybody really wants to, and that's that.
My name is Anderson from the Final Leg.
And I'm Coach Rob from SCA Track and Field. And thank you for watching this segment from the finish line.
If you want to know what's really going on at the high school and college level, be sure to subscribe to Coach Rob Track and Field.
And if you want more content on the best track and field athletes in the world, be sure to subscribe to the Final Leg.